Okay, so I'm gonna get back and we'll get to the business here. This is Tori Wilcock. She's a conservation and restoration coordinator for the Restore Our Shores program. And that's the Indian River.
In the Indian River Lagoon, yes.
Okay. She, let's see, staff and thousands of community volunteers work steadily on living shoreline solutions that restore populations of native filter feeding oysters into the lagoon, grow protective mangroves, seed restorative clam beds, replace nutrient-rich seagrasses, restore and build new reefs, and create buffer zones to stem pollution and algae. You're a busy person.
Oh, yeah.
In our own words, I'm responsible for the oyster gardening program and the buffer zone project. I remember my first oyster bed. Oh, I'm going to learn about oysters. So we go down there and they had all these shells. And what I learned is they were looking for free labor. But I didn't learn about oysters. But, so you may see me participating in outreach workshops and other events where I share my experience and passion for the conservation and various projects we undertake. Originally from the UK, I've traveled the world working and volunteering in several different careers, which have been given me transferable skills, experience, and amazing opportunities to live and work.
Nothing to say.
So I'm going to skip the rest of this more stuff. She's embarrassing me because she does so much.
All right, what's the
Good
best
to
place
have
to
you
sit?
here.
Thank you.
And you're on.
Let's do it. All right, what, can you all see me more or less here?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me? Yes, I'm very loud, I'm sorry. So yes, if you can't hear me, give me a little wave. If you need a translator, my Yorkshire accent is pretty strong right now. So basically, yes, today I'm going to tell you a little bit about all the things we do to restore our shores, ways that you can help as well, and just a little bit about some of the conservation animals, because we are the zoo, we're part of the conservation team. So I'll give you a quick brief on some of the conservation animals we're actually helping out in the wild, but then also the other things that we're doing that you guys can also help with too. So as you can see, there's a few on here, we'll move on to them. Oh, pressing buttons. Or was it froze?
Hold on.
There we go, just resetting it.
There we go.
Yeah, so just a quick question, has everyone been to the zoo? Everyone, yeah, nice and been, yeah, cool. Okay, so yeah, so the actual Brevard Zoo is built by volunteers. It's very big on community, and so is Restore Our Shores. So we literally need help from volunteers from the community to help grow our oysters, our clams, and help us with planting. And for me, they're the best days. When we're out planting seagrass or anything like that, the community are with us, we have the best time. So yeah, so moving on quickly. So here we have our manatees. So I'm not sure if you keep up to date with the zoo things, but we've actually just got a new facility for our manatees in the zoo. We've just had two in there, Churro and Rhonda. Churro's literally just been released now, so she's been set free to her forever home. And so we're really happy about doing this project with these guys. And when you all heard about the aquarium, yeah, right. So the aquarium's just going to be a bit further up north near the port. We're going to also be having a facility up there for rehabilitation for the manatees as well. And I'll get on to the whole point of the sea turtles that we're going to be looking after up there too. All right. And then we also look after some. And then we've got frosted flatwood salamanders, so they're struggling out as well. So this is the whole point. We're trying to help conserve them and protect their land. Things like, there's certain wildlife that's killing them, maybe their habitats getting destroyed for homes, or things happen. So basically, we're trying to help them and make sure that they don't. And then these cheeky little things. So we've actually got 37 of these little guys. So these are the Perdita cute beach mice. Super cute, super funny. They're actually more active on a night, so it's quite lucky to be able to see them in daylight. And yeah, they're really cheeky. But again, same thing. Habitat gets destroyed. Even wildlife, cats, and hurricane, because they live on the beach, it can get destroyed that way. So it's really important we say to people, don't stand on the dunes, don't go on those areas where their homes are, where it can get destroyed. The whole point is for those plants that are on there to hold it together for erosion, okay? And then we have bees in the zoo. So the thing I really love about this, the honey that they make, it is delicious. And also, the cool thing about this honey is that we actually use it on the gauze for the sea turtle injuries. Yeah, because it's got like that antibacterial properties. So it's very cool to, they kind of repurpose and help us out in the zoo. So that's a kind of a cool little thing. We don't technically sell the honey, but one day I'm trying to encourage them because it's very good. And then here, maybe you were here when Yahen did a little talk. So she's doing all the strawberries. And then restore our shores. So this is the stuff that I help a lot with. I get involved with all of the projects, but I'm mainly looking after 2 or 3 of the main projects. Does anyone want to have a guess, actually, before we get going? How long do you think, in miles, is the Indian River Lagoon? Ooh. Go on, don't be afraid. 16, a little bit high, keep going. Ooh, get in there. It's just short of 157 miles long, right? And 70% of that is in the Brevard County area. So basically how Restore Our Shores came about was from, we got the call. We got the call from the county. We were actually helping, because we have so many volunteers in the community that help. UCF were doing an actual restoration project further north. I think it was Mosquito Lagoon area. And they needed our help. They needed the volunteers, the community to get involved. So we helped, we reached out, we got involved. And then because that's 70% of Brevard County covering the Indian River Lagoon, the county actually reached out to us and were like, hey, we need your help. We need to actually sort out the Indian River Lagoon. It's good, it's a lot has changed. We've lost a lot of seagrass, oysters got overfarmed. Certain things went in the lagoon that maybe killed certain things. So we need to help basically restore our shores. So I'm not sure if you've heard of the half-cent sales tax, but basically some of that money goes towards our projects. We are basically a not-for-profit. We work off anything that's funded and grants given to us. So that's how that kind of works. So one of our projects is the oyster garden project. Is anyone an oyster gardener here? Put your hands up. Yeah. So cool. So we have some oyster gardeners. So if you live along the lagoon, you can be an oyster gardener. Or even if you don't live along the lagoon, you can be an oyster buddy. Sorry, buddy. It's my accent. Sorry. My cat's called Buddy, and everyone's like, what's it called? I'm like, Buddy, not Buddy. Yeah, so I have to remind myself to be like, water. Okay, so you can be an oyster buddy and help out somebody that lives by the lagoon. So if they go on holiday or they don't feel well or they've got to see family, you can go to their job and help look after the oysters. So what happens is the FAU Harbour branch, a little bit further south, they help grow little baby oysters called spats, and then they grow on these empty shells that we actually collect. Does anyone know what shuck and share is? Right, so basically the certain restaurants, I'll show you in a second, the certain restaurants that you can go to and eat oysters, and those shells come back to us, we go around and collect those shells, we let them sit in the sun, and the sun naturally kills off the bacteria, because it could be shells from all the way up north. We don't want any bacteria up there. So basically, we use that shell. So oysters are very gregarious. Little baby spats swim around. Well, they don't really swim, but yeah, they kind of float around and they find other shells to attach to, and they grow up in big clumps. And what happens is when we put this empty shell, give it to FAU Harbour Branch, they have little baby spats, they're feeding it algae because they like to eat the algae, and that's the whole purpose. So that when we put them in the lagoon for the oyster gardeners to grow, they can start growing bigger and bigger and eat up any of the algae that's in the lagoon. All right? I'll go more into it in a minute. Oh, we're frozen again. Uh-oh. Well, don't worry, I'll keep going on about it. So, so basically with that, what happens is a really fun thing. We have two different things that we do. We actually build reefs as well. So if you head across the bridge, across Ugali, and turn left, you head south on US 1. If you just look to the left, it's kind of opposite Morgan. Right now, we are actually building a bunch of reefs, oyster reefs, and we're getting volunteers to come out and help us. So you can go on our website, sign up and help us build reefs there, and you'll see little white poles sticking out of the water. And that's where all our little reefs are staked out. We've got coquina rocks, and then in that reef, we're putting lots of empty oyster shells because it's got a really good natural flow of current, which allows natural oyster spat recruitment. And we've already got oysters recruiting, and we've not even finished building. And then we have, yeah, right, it's really cool. And then the other project we just did recently, we built an oyster reef out in Turkey Creek, again, empty shells. And before we even finished, I think it was about February time maybe, UCF did some estimations on it, and we had over 1 million spats. Yeah, right. And then we did another one, so with the oyster gardens, when the oyster gardeners grow the oysters, we put them in the reefs as well. So we just recently, I think it's like October time we did this one, we put it in a reef right near Banana River. So, and mostly that's because sometimes it doesn't have as much oyster like flow, so the recruitment doesn't flow through. So we're kind of giving it a head start. All right. So then you saw clams. So we also do clam gardening. We've actually just given away 250,000 clams right now. So there's a lot of clam gardeners further south in the Grant area, and they look after their clams. They take them out of the bags, they clean them, they grow them and grow them. And I want to say, don't quote me on this number, but it was about 1 million that we released. I think it was December, January time. So they've grown them for us, and then we set them free. And the benefits, like I say, from clams and oysters. Does anyone want to have a guess? How much does an oyster filter in 24 hours? About gallons. Give me gallons, more or less. 100 gallons. Oh, close. Oh, you're really rooting for these oysters. There's actually about 50 gallons a day. Up to, right? That's a good oyster, right? So we literally had over 100,000 oysters returned from oyster gardeners. All right, and if they're filtering up to 50 gallons a day, that's nearly 5 million gallons. So that's really helping clean the lagoon. Clams, I mean, I look after the oysters. Clams do similar. They still do great. We love clams. Clams are awesome. And then we also have mangroves as well. So we have a bunch of mangroves. Does anyone volunteer at the zoo? Oh, you did maybe? Yeah, nice, yeah. So we have a bunch of mangroves there that we still grow, and people have taken them, and schools have grown them for us. So we even have schools that help us too. And then seagrass planting. So we've just actually recently seen flowers grow on our seagrass. So that's a very good thing. That's all I can say. It's very cool. And then buffer zones. So buffer zones are basically Florida native plants that we suggest you would plant along, like say towards the edge near the lagoon, and the whole purpose is to help with stormwater runoff. So things like oils, pollutants, fertilizers, pesticides, even grass clippings. So there's lots of ways, which I'll tell you after this a little bit, of how you can help and how you can even avoid that, even if you don't get a chance and you don't have a place to plant buffer zones and native plants. Okay, so there are lots of options and ways you can help. So just to quickly tell you how this all came about in the Inky River Lagoon. So if we look in this area here, and we look here, do you notice how much more built up it is here? So yeah, in the last 50 years, we had over a 250% population increase. So with that growth going inwards, infrastructure needed to be improved, and there's a lot more stormwater runoff. And even consider this, even though you don't live by the lagoon, you still affect the lagoon. So even somebody thinks, well, I don't put fertilizer and pesticides on my grass, so I'm not affecting the lagoon. Okay, so when you cut your grass, what do you do? Because I see a lot of people doing the blow in the grass and it goes. And if it's going to the edge of the road, and then where's it going to flow down to? Stormwater drains, and then it's going to end up in the lagoon. But then they're like, yeah, but it's just natural grass, what's the problem? Well, that's the problem. So it's natural, and if lots of people are doing that, and we have that increase in population, then what's happening is, and we've even seen it, people just blowing it off their dogs and stuff, who live by the lagoon, but even if you live inland, So the problem is there's lots more increase in phosphorus, nitrogen, and things like this, which encourages and increases the algae bloom. All right, so this quickly kind of teaches you about it. So with that increase of nutrients, even with like grass clippings in there, basically we get more harmful algae blooms. And then the seagrass dies, because what does the seagrass need to grow? The light, the sunshine, right? And if it's got all those algae blooms across the top, you know, it's going to struggle. And then what needs seagrass? Someone said turtles, yeah, fish, manatees, exactly. So they've not got their food, they've not got their habitat. Oh, I froze again. No. We're doing it. It's not too bad. It's frozen, but we'll keep going. So obviously there's seagrass. There we go. We're back, and then we get fish kills, because then there's no oxygen. There's no habitat for them. Things like that. And then the wildlife dies. We saw what happened with the manatees when they were not getting any grass, seagrass to eat, and things like that. And then it was getting too cold for them to travel to where there was any grass left. So that's another reason why we're also trying to replant that seagrass. So hopefully this, oh, no, we didn't. I don't know if you could get this video to work, because it lost it off the screen. Basically, this is a quick video that shows you, no, it's not going to do it. So basically that video normally would show you how over the space of 4 hours, the oysters filter the water. And it's so cool to watch, like it's like a time lapse, but we're not watching it tonight. So if you want to help with it, and you don't fancy getting in the lagoon to help build these reefs, feel free to take a screenshot of this one, because you can go to one of these restaurants who participate in the Ship and Share program. And these guys, we drive all the way around these restaurants on a Tuesday. You might see our truck, there's Brevard on the side. And yeah, we collect the oysters from them. Yeah, right? Is anyone eating any of these? You're already participating without even knowing. Look at that. All right, so again, this is the whole process. So these guys here, just to the side, they are helping build the spat bags for our oyster gardeners. So they build the bags with the empty shell that we take to FAU Harbour Branch, which I told you about. And that's me up there doing a little workshop. But we like to engage the community and let them know what we're doing. And then this is when we go to people's houses and we do monitoring. So we go and measure the oysters, we check what kind of creatures are on there. There's some really cool ones. Just recently we did a little photo competition. We got like not horseshoe crabs, I think those. We got seahorses, some cool little turtles in the pictures, hanging around the habitats. So it's giving them some like places to hang out. And then that's one of our barges where we have our coquina rock to build the reefs. And like I say, you can come out with us if you want to and help build the reefs. That's one of the options. Or plant seagrass or anything. We'll see if this video works. So this was one of the releases of the clams. Trying to catch them too. We tried to build a very big, put their little leg out and bury themselves under. Clams tend to like living under the sand oyster garden. To be a bit more filtered, like they like to be out of the sand. All right, and then there's our seagrass. So we have. Oops.
There's definitely tube worms in here. Did you see that?
That's not surprising, to be
Where's
honest.
these things? These little white tube worms?
And yeah, we have our seagrass growing here, and it's doing really well. So, and this is what we do. We use this to replant in the lagoon. We have to get a permit to do that. And yeah, hopefully we're just doing a little bit further up in the Banana River right now. And then this is the bit about our mangroves. So we've got over 3,000 mangrove foster parents, schools, some great schools that are growing them for us. They do take a little bit longer than some of our other projects. And then there's another thing we do, there's Bird Island that's off 192, you know, the bridge. It's just a tiny little island there that we're trying to protect and keep an eye on all the different types of birds that are on it. And then our buffer zones, so this is the bit I was talking about. So we actually have 2 demo sites. One's at Sandpoint Park in Titusville, and one's at Autumn Paddles in Indian Harbour Beach. And we've actually just planted 4 new ones. I think there's some people in here that helped us. Yes, love it. So that's great. It was really fun actually. So we planted 4 others. One is at Pineapple Park down near the library in Melbourne. There's one at Fisherman's Landing, all the way down in Grant. That was beautiful. If you ever go down there, there's picnic tables and everything. Then there's one at Geiger Point, just going over that 192 bridge. And then the other one is Kelly Park East, which is a really nice one. We're getting so many comments and compliments from all the boats that do tours around there, and they're now trying to educate and teach the tourists that are going on the tours about why we've got them and the benefits of the lagoon. So it's very handy. We're all work together. So again, just as a reminder, it limits that stormwater pollution, things like grass clippings, oil, fertilizer, pesticides, pet waste. This is one that people don't think about. They're like, well, I don't have a garden. Like, I don't, how can I help? Well, if you've got a dog maybe or a pet that goes outside, even when it rains, that's going to flow down eventually into the lagoon. And if everybody's dogs are doing that, you're not picking up after your pet, then that's going to cause problems too. It helps reduce erosion. So if you're living closer to the lagoon, you can be planting things like railroad vines, flies, bees, so many animals. So habitat, food and shelter, internet's gone. And then it's lower maintenance depending on what you're doing. So for example, I always say things like, if you don't want to be cutting the lawn all the time, you could plant things like ground covers. There's sunshine mimosa, frog fruit, and they look beautiful, beautiful colors. And they just, if you want to trim them, you can, but they just grow and it looks like nice grass with some beautiful flowers in it. There's other options like having, I don't know, when you plant Florida natives, you don't have to water them as much. You just, once they're established, they grow themselves. They're used to this kind of temperature, right? So it's just considering the type of plants you maybe plant and things like that. And then they can provide privacy and shade. So if you need to, if you want to save more on your bills for your air conditioning, you could plant some bigger trees and things so that it shades it and keeps it cool that way. Yeah. And then ways that you can live lagoon friendly. So washing your car can even impact the lagoon. So we're talking about when it rains and when you're washing your car, it can flow down to the stormwater drain and then eventually in the lagoon. So there's options. You could wash your car on the lawn and it soaks down into the lawn and helps infiltrate the pollution flowing away. And also you could take it to a car wash because they have to dispose of that dirty water in the correct way. Yeah. And then another one. Has anyone heard of Lagoon Loyal? Yeah, so you can go on that website, really cool little thing that's around here. And I do notice actually there's a lot of offers around here. So what happens is there's things like if you get a rain barrel, there's potential in different ways. You could get a rain barrel and check your county and you might get a rebate. So you actually get money back by getting that rain barrel. And then you also get points on this website. And you could save money or get points towards or get coupons or a discount card to certain restaurants and participate in places in the community. So it helps save you money down the line. Yeah, that's that one. And there's your rain barrel. So back to the rain barrel. There's other options. If your county is not offering like a free rain barrel or a rebate, MRC, which is further down, just a little bit further down south in Palm Bay area, they do workshops. Every now and again, they'll put on a workshop, you attend the workshop, and then you know how to use the rain barrel, how to set it up, and then you can have a rain barrel. They just give you that rain barrel to use. And then picking up your pet waste, good one. And then fertilizers and things like pesticides. So right now, there is actually a ban between June and September. You're not supposed to be using fertilizer. So there's things like that they are trying to help and implement. Stores get involved. I did actually see in Home Depot that I think Lagoon Loyal actually went around and asked them to put up the signs, and if you notice, they'll have them in there. And you might notice them more now I've mentioned it. And yeah, and things like, say, pesticides. If you're growing things that are more Florida native, they're more used to being able to grow here, and they can, they're less likely to get eaten by certain bugs and creatures around here. So again, that's why we say plant Florida native. And then, like I said, about cutting the lawn, could you potentially just let it soak down into the grass if it's not close to a roadside where it's going to flow down a stormwater drain? Then that's a natural fertilizer. Or could you dispose of it and make like a compost heap? You know, there's different options. Or like I say, don't have grass, have things like a ground cover like sunshine mimosa or frog fruit. We actually just, one of our team was driving down the street and literally had the whole front lawn sunshine mimosa, and they were literally like, now that's a front lawn, that's a Florida native garden. So cool to see. Oh. And then things like the actual drains, so septic to sewer. Depending on where you live, you might be within the area where the county will give you a rebate, like a certain amount of money back towards changing from septic to sewer. Usually it's within the watershed of a certain distance close to the actual lagoon. And then plant the Florida native plants. So that's that bit. Oh, it's gone off. Oh. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the zoo, at the aquarium that we're going to be doing. So hopefully it's going to be, like I say, just up near it's kind of like the curve as you head around 520 if you're heading north, and it's just to the left, like ports to your right, the aquarium's going to be on the left, and it's going to be very educational based. We want to really, if anyone comes from the port, from any of the cruise ships, we want to be able to educate them about our lagoon. We want to teach them why we're trying to look after it. We want to teach them about the animals and the nature and why it's so important, because it can relate back to wherever they're coming from. And we've got such a diverse ecosystem as well. There's going to be lots of different educational areas in there. There's going to be the manatee rehab center. There's going to be the turtle section where I'm really looking forward to this. It's a little bit like, I don't know if I should name names. Sometimes at Disney you can go see the vets working on the animals. We're going to have an open area, like the windows, where you can actually see the animals, the turtles, getting operated on. And there's going to be a whole section where, well, they're hoping anyway, that this whole section, this is the plan, you know, don't shoot me, this not right, but this is what they're going for. So this whole section, you can actually see, because you know, if you go to the zoo, you like to see new things and how it's changing and progressing. You get used to those animals. And what we like to do is have a whole section where it's got the names of each turtle. You'd be like, yeah, Jeff's doing great and he's ready to be released in a week. Or it could be like, you know, Tony the turtle's just missing his flipper, he might not be released, so you might have to go to another location. Or it's going to kind of keep updates on how they're getting on, and you'll be able to see them swimming around in their little areas. Because that's one thing you maybe don't get to see so much at the zoo in the back. So we want people to actually see it and what we do and how we're helping them. And it'll be great for you guys, because it's probably, you all doing STIR? You know, when they're ready and healthy and fit. So yeah, so hopefully we're going to be breaking ground this year for that one, and we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure if there's other things I can remember about the zoo. And then obviously about volunteering. So if you ever want to help with us, I'm actually a member of the Sea Turtle Preservation Society. I try and get out there as much as I can, but a lot of things clash. I'm like, usually it's like, hey, come to this thing. I'm like, oh, I'm already working with the zoo, so I get to see a lot of you out there. But other ways that you can help, so other than the things we've mentioned, but you can go on that website and you could possibly help build a reef, or you could help us plant seagrass, be a clam garden, or even an oyster garden. There's lots of different options out there, and even workshops that we do. So sometimes we need help with building the habitats for the oysters, or for the clam, like even the seagrass, we have to build like these special excluders, because we maybe in the past planted seagrass and some cheeky sea turtles and manatees have come along and had a little snack. So we have to kind of protect it until it grows strong and ready for them to eat. So yeah, so does anyone have any questions for me? Might have some, feel free to ask. No? You also, oh, go for it. What's your favorite? Sorry, my favorite? Oh, favorite project, like that is impossible. Like every time, like every day is different. It's unreal, and it literally depends on the day. Like even when there's like a crazy storm, and you're thinking this is like I am not looking forward to this day. It's freezing, and then at the end of the day, everyone's just like, oh, we had such a laugh, and it's so funny. And it's usually like say the volunteers that are there with us, and some like every day we have a plan. We have this best plan, right? And it never goes to plan. Like it is like you could think of all the different things that could go wrong, and it'll be like a tire goes, or like we might forget. Like we've even got it where we've gone all the way and like who picked up the boat key? Oh, what? Like it's like what? We need the boat key. How are we gonna go? Or it could be the most simple things like the weather. Like we're planned, we're ready to go, and then storm comes in and like, oh, what can we do today? Or, we've even had people stung by stingrays. Like, it happens, we're out in nature. I've been out, and the first time I actually started, I was on the barge, and, I'm from England. We don't really have anything dangerous other than a tick. That's about it. Which is probably the number one killer in the world anyway, so forget. So I'm on the barge, a little bit concerned, Florida waters, And I was like, it's fine, there's no gates around here. And just as we leave Turkey Creek, I'm like, what's that? And it's just like swimming by us. And I'm like, yeah, just tell me, But every day, honestly, it's wild. Every day. Oh, actually, a shark swam by me the other day. It was the most Florida day I've ever had, I'm not gonna lie. So we were doing seagrass, which first of all stood in the Indian River Lagoon, planting seagrass, snorkeling around. And I'm like, oh, it's a giant drone. I'm talking huge drone. And it's like looking after the mosquitoes, looking after. And then I'm like, okay, carrying on, we're trying to plant this seagrass, we're doing all the monitoring. And then I'm like, just stand up for a minute, I'm like, what's that? And there's a C-130 flying over and people jumping out of it. And I'm like, okay, right, okay. And then I just like go back down, like, right. And then the wind comes and there's not even a current, but it's just the wind that's now blowing away. So then I'm like, my snorkel's spilling and I'm choking on that. I'm like, great. That's just, yeah. And then I'm like, stand up and I'm like, I can feel a rocket in my chest. And I look up and there's just like a shuttle going up, and I'm like, whilst we're right next to this tiny little mini airport where there's just planes flying in and out, and I'm like, this is the most Florida day. You can't how can you beat that? Like, wow. Oh yeah, and then lightning right there. So there you go. You can't beat that. So, but yeah, like I said, you. Every day is different. I will say I was very excited about the Buffer Zone project because that was something I was leading. And every time I see them, I feel so happy. But I think it's just because it's so easy to see it. You look at them, it's beautiful, and it's like you can see the nature, enjoying it right there and then. But like I say, every project is so different. And never driven a boat before, and now I'm just like, why am I allowed to be doing this? I'm like, volunteers in the back, like, first time. They're like, okay. And so that's why I love the volunteers, because they help me. Do you know what? We work with so many different people. Like we help each other out. We're there. We're talking with everybody. We don't maybe work with them directly, but I think did they not run I think they ran like an outreach event here. Maybe I think it was them. They ran one here like over Christmas time, winter time, and we came here. But we all kind of help. We help each other out. We support each other. We're always talking to each other. You literally everybody kind of knows everybody. You speak to everyone, and everyone's kind of got different projects going on and funded in different ways. But yeah, we're all kind of there for each other. We just kind of cheer each other on. So yeah.
One of the things about the aquarium is that they're going to have a 3-story building where the different organizations can come together and share information and work more efficiently together.
Yes.
And share the data that we're working on and do research side.
Yeah, completely forgot about that. But yes, so yeah, they're gonna is that the Dwayne DeFreeze one? I think there's an area they're gonna call. We've got different names for different areas, but yeah, I think, and there's even gonna be a section that's free, so you don't even have to pay to go in, and it's for people so that everybody can take part. So for example, this is another reason why I love the Buffer Zone project. That was actually funded by the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program. And part of the grant deliverable was to basically go into underserved schools, and they grew fluorinated plants for us to put in the buffer zones. So it's really cool, and they were so engaged, and they like told friends, family, and then and also it's to engage the community and get them involved and help, you know, plant the plants too, and encourage them to plant them as well. So yeah, that was really cool to see the kids. And then we also did, I think, a little competition for the kids. It wasn't just for the schools; it's like homeschool, scouts, you know, anything like that. And they had to either submit a letter to the community, poster, poem, or short story. And the winners of each category, and it was basically about like the benefits of buffer zones and why they, you know, and why that we should be doing it and why you should consider it. There was some soft stories, or some intense, like good ones in there. And the winner of each category is going to get their work put on the sign at each buffer zone location. So it's really cool to like share that, and then some photos from the volunteers are going to be on the signs as well. So we just like to share that because, you know, it's the volunteers that do it and the kids that help us. So yeah, very helpful. Yeah.
How many oysters do you estimate you've introduced into the film?
Oh, do you know what? I've never tried to wear that out over the long term. That's a great question. I'll make up a number. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands. So, well, like I said, I mean, we've been doing this for nearly 10 years now at least. Was it 20? Yeah, around that. And then trying to think, it's like every year we're releasing some. So, and like I say, October, every year's a bit different. So, for example, this year the oysters haven't done as well, but we're still going to get some back. But like last year, they were doing amazing, and we were getting oyster gardens calling us up like, we need more habitats. Like they come to a workshop in September, October time. They build their own habitats for their little babies. They get very protective of them as well. Like they literally call them their babies. And then the comments like, they're exploding out of their habitats. We need more. So we're having to like, that's when we do workshops. We can build more and then give them out and we can just grow them. Like, how many habitats did you get in the end?
I was up to 4,
Yeah.
but I could have easily split them.
Yeah.
And then each more.
Yeah, we had a lady return.
I didn't have more room.
I know. Yeah, there was one lady returned 12 habitats, like in the end. Because
No,
she just
there was at least 3 generations.
yeah,
Yeah.
we just kept going. Yeah.
It's the first year that I had babies, that the babies had babies that actually made it to adulthood.
Cute. Yeah, we've actually noticed as well, even though the oysters that we had growing haven't done as well, and it can be different things, like it can be temperature, it can be salinity. You know, if it's too salty and we've not had enough rain, they could struggle, and vice versa. You know, if it's too fresh water, because what does everyone know what the reason in the lagoon? Brackish. Yeah, like brackish is a mixture. So basically there can be so many variables that affect them, but we have noticed, we're doing one of our projects, it's called RAIN, and it's about oyster health. And it's a very new project, so it needs to be put on there. But it's about checking the oyster health and seeing how they're doing, how the reproduction is. Because at the moment, we've been putting empty shell out at different sites to go and test them, monitor them. And we've been getting hundreds of babies naturally just landing on there. So that's a good sign. If there's natural recruitment, great. And like I said, we've not even finished our reefs down in Melbourne, and they're all attached already. Like, yeah. So, yeah. And like I said earlier, I forgot to mention it. The other thing was, back in the day, we had a lot of people from a certain area come down and maybe take a lot of our oysters and clams. So that was another factor of why we need to get them put back in there. So yeah. Sorry, yeah.
I want to listen come down from Washington Island, and we live on a barrier beach.
Oh.
We've had a terrible start the last few days because of the rain and the piled up. And the sea turtles still nest, or are they impacted by that start, or do they come back later?
Oh, I'm not sure about the sea turtles so much. You're right. Do you know?
Yes, an escarpment can prevent nesting. It depends how steep it is, it depends on the species. Sometimes the greens will plow right through it, but yeah, it can certainly impede nesting. But they may.
Waterhead and another.
It's connected. So we are part of the conservation team in the zoo. But the thing is, because we now have barges, boats, lots of different vehicles, and we're just out going all the time, we had to get a location and an office outside of the zoo because we needed the space.
Or if a person wants to volunteer at this program.
Yeah.
We need to volunteer, for the zoo or directly.
They can come directly straight to us, yeah, so you don't even have to do the zoo. If you want to do the zoo and you want to help there, you're more than welcome to go to the Brevard Zoo website directly, and there's volunteer options there, and you get kind of trained. Restore our shawls, like you've heard, we just get thrown into it, so you sign up and you get thrown into it with us, and you figure it out with us, and we'll teach you as we're there, and you get to learn about the oysters, the seagrass, and the clams as we're doing it. So it's up to you, it's how you feel about and share, which it's not the floweriest of smells when you're collecting used oyster shells in the summer, but he loves it, so you know, great. I've got a different experiment where we're planting them in different ways, and it's just like we'll share that because we want to help, because it's a good thing. Like if somebody else has a good idea, we could be like, oh, well, that might work better, and it's, you know, over time. So I'll give you an example. And this is more just us over time, but other people did it too, where they did the oyster reefs with bags. Well, like I said earlier, the oysters need more filtration, they need more air. So then we built more gabions for them to hang out in. And again, still we were like, well, it's not the best for the environment, like what's the best thing we could do? We're like, let's use something as natural as possible that they could even recruit to, and we put coquina rock in there. So over time, we even learn from ourselves, from others. So we all kind of share ideas and do little events, workshops, and we're always keeping up to date with the research and stuff. So yeah, no, that's a good question.
How do you keep people from stealing those?
Yeah, I guess that's a tough one, but it is very illegal. So if somebody steals your oysters, FWC, you can call them, but yeah, they're not supposed to. I think it's supposed to just be yeah, it's hard. I mean, that was the problem. So basically, if you think about it, all that time ago when oysters got stolen from the lagoon, it's 100, just short, like I said, short how many miles? 157, he's still with me. So just short 157 miles long, and there's only 2 police boats. You know, so it's tough, you know, it's the same thing we run into with sea turtles, with whales, with, you know, this is why we come out here. We come out to educate people. Sometimes it's tough because you end up preaching to the choir, but if you can just teach somebody else, or if the amount of people that learn from the oyster gardens themselves, and like, oh, what am I doing? And then the neighbor wants to get involved, and then they're like, oh yeah, I can see that your dock's getting really clear, and you've got sea turtles hanging out, and manatees are coming to hang out, and we're hearing more and more that the oyster, even people that grew up here from being a child, they were like, we saw it completely go. And now they're saying, you know what, in the last few years, we're actually starting to see more seagrass floating around, starting to see, you know, clams, oysters, things, you know. So it's usually a 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Keep educating people, teaching people about, you know, the benefits, why they should stay in there. Yeah. So everything we do is permitted. We have to, yeah, even I can't just take an oyster out, it has to be permitted. So, yeah. Any other questions? Oh.
We have 2 online.
Oh, yes, go for it.
One is a comment. It's Janet. She said, thank you for a great presentation. More importantly, a huge thank you for all that you're doing. Your tireless efforts are making a difference. And I would definitely second that.
Well, thank you.
And then the next question is, well, I had a question. People are stealing the oyster. This is not an oyster to eat.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Good luck. Like, you're gonna read it, you'll know about it. So, so basically, yeah, I mean, what we're saying is, you know, the oysters, what are they eating? You know, they're eating the algae, they're eating the dirt, they're helping to clean the lagoon, and if, you know, probably suggest maybe eat these ones. Yeah, I will say, if you do see it, we had like that oyster garden competition where they submitted their photos with all the cool creatures. We had a really cool one. It was kind of funny, but they'd set it up where there was like empty oyster shells, there was like hot sauce, lemon, a shoving knife, and then there was their dog, and he was licking his lips. And I was like, it's kind of cute, but I was like, do not eat oysters. Like, yeah, so yeah, good point.
And the other question was, I think you've answered this. How long have the oyster beds been part of this project?
I think it was from 2014. I think that's when UCS started to do theirs up in Mosquito Lagoon, and we got reached out to help with that. And it was around that year. So what's that? Yeah, over 10 years now, and the sorrel funding that goes towards that. That's coming up again next year, so we're hoping to obviously get that funding because that's what keeps us going and being able to do this project work and for the volunteers and the community to do it. But there are other places that sometimes, like I said, NEP, they helped us, they fund us for different little projects. And we've got other projects coming up every year as well, new ones. So next year we're hoping to do a project where we can go into schools more like high school age and give an internship. So that, you know, young kids that can't maybe travel or have that opportunity to learn about the lagoon and what they'd love to, and they maybe don't have that access or that ability to even drive and do those things, we're going to try and do something for those as well. So yeah, so there's always something new we're trying to do and help with it. So yeah, cool, good question. Any more? That was fun.
Wonderful job.
Thank you so much. I might see you out there in the lagoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can,